Hello everyone. I know you were probably expecting a live stream here, but unfortunately we can't do that with Next War Poland at the moment because we're really having a little bit of a hard time. So welcome back to Big Board, and we're going to have a little look at what kind of went down turn two. And hopefully this won't go on too long, but I want to try and give you a feel for the situation and why I don't think that I can jump in here and run a lot of this live until I get a little bit further into the game. The primary reason for that is the multitude of decisions that either need to be made or can be made. And I'll give you a couple of little examples perhaps, but I'm kind of midway through doing a couple of things here. But for instance, I was conducting some strikes. I had a unit here that I did some strikes on. They had to be detected first, which we did do, and then we did the strikes, and then well, just the whole concept around the strike mechanic. First of all, we've got cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and then we have aircraft that can do strikes, artillery, and HQs that can do strikes. And for the most part, they all have basically the same rules and the same process to go through, and they use the same combat resolution chart, but you do them in a different order. HQs and artillery, they have different, let's call them spotting rules, right? Different detection rules. So most units on the board that are not HQs or supply units are spotted automatically or detected automatically just because of the way the rules are working in the module. So you got to go through this whole exercise of how do I want to attack this unit? What do I want to attack it with? When is the best time for me to attack it? In this first strike phase, or maybe in the second strike phase. Do I even need to attack that unit? And if I do attack it and I achieve a bad result, then what happens? If I achieve a good result, well, then what happens? So you got to think about all that. And so there are things like that, and I've got to make those choices here in this framework of a couple of formations here, and then I've got the whole section of the map. Obviously, there's the land areas as well. Here's a great example of consequences for choices, right? So earlier on, I was moving forces around and then was looking at the supply ranges back to the edge of the map, which in this particular module count as a supply source. Normally it does not. You have to go back to one of your own country's urban areas or a mobile supply unit or a supply depot or some other aspect of the game that's defined. And I thought, well, gee, I'm going to have to clear this city hex here on the left-hand side of the screen because I will, if I don't clear this hex using the clearing operations, I can't run a line of communication or a supply line through this, so that has to be cleared. And then I'm moving up other units and doing other stuff and things are getting going. And I'm about to advance after combat, and I go, whoa, hang on! If I advance after combat here, now I have to go under a clearing operation, which I've got to have 4 or 5 steps in there, and they have to, pull a random chit that might have a 6 or a 1 or a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then I've got to roll against that, and that doesn't happen until the end of the turn, so they're not going to get their exploit move, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, well, I want to avoid going into these. All right, well, let's not advance into any of these. Well, I've still got to keep a supply line going here, and I've got to make sure that there's a continuous ability to do that. So at some point I am going to have to clear this hex, but maybe I just don't want to do that now. So with that realization, I start looking at the map as the defender, as the Polish guys, and I'm going, oh, well, if these guys aren't going to go in, maybe they're not going to go into all of these urban areas and these cities and things. So I can use them as kind of buffers. So I don't necessarily have to have a unit in this hex, perhaps. Maybe I can set him off over here because this unit and a zone of control and that hex will anything that comes in here is going to have to stop and be put under clearing operations. And if I then attack, and so if the Soviet unit did move in here, then I would then have the opportunity to attack them back, and then they're going to be defending at a disadvantage. Or if they're trying to attack out of that while they're clearing, they're going to be at a disadvantage while they're trying to attack me. So you start thinking through all this stuff, and you're like, whoa, okay, this gets complicated. And I'm not comfortable enough with the route. So it's forcing me now to make some, some second guesses. And it's driving me to not be 100% confident with the rules at the moment, because I'm noodling really hard on what I want to do, what I can do, what I should do. And then I start thinking about it, and I go, oh man, I'm gonna walk away from the table for a minute and think about that. And I come back and I'm like, now where were we? And so I'm kind of going around in little circles here. I'm only playing in really small segments of time. And so I don't think it'd be particularly interesting to do this live streaming stuff. And I don't know that I can extemporaneously, run a commentary and check comments while I'm playing and get it all mostly right as well. And I do want to play it mostly right. I was watching Joel Toppin's videos, and he's having a lot of fun with his. He's on a repeat play, on his second back-to-back play, and he realized that when he set up the tactical surprise scenario, which is the same scenario that I'm playing, he missed putting 6, 7, 8 units on the map, and couldn't work out why the Soviets were just steamrolling through NATO. He also did some very nice, fine tactical, made some tactical choices with TAC nukes and stuff like that really was a game changer. But he had a flawed opening, right? So we're putting a fair few hours into these things, and I'd like to try and get it mostly right. So I think what we're going to do with these videos, and here we are at 7 minutes, me trying to explain why I can't play it live. But the long and the short of it is, on the operational map here, at the end of turn 2, and we're getting into the strike phase and post-supply phase and all the rest of it here for beginning of turn 3, is the Soviets are starting to wear down a little bit. We're starting to see some step losses that have just been inflicted. This HQ, I think, is going to be taken off the board because of these, because of these missile strikes that occurred here. But I'm just double checking a rule. We've got ourselves in a spot of bother down here with the forces from this guard, the WMD, the Western Military District. We've got step loss here, and I have already put some replacements in. Got some airborne here. They're kind of ineffective. They're really just in a holding pattern here. So finally just freed up the Belarus forces here, so they'll be able to motor on down the highway here a little bit and assist. But it's getting mighty thin. There's more NATO stuff coming in. Not sure that I'm going to be in a position to press the attack here terribly effectively until I get the next round of reinforcements, which I believe comes next, the end of this turn. That'll be 9 more units, basically 9 divisions, or 9 brigades, I should say, right? Up in the land area, just a really tough time clearing areas. So I've got one under clearance here, another under clearance here. I got to stack these guys up here. I got to get the points, because these friggin' things are all 5s. I think this one's a 5 here as well, 6. So I got those die rolls are hard to make with all the DRMs. The US just put a strike on these guys, an airstrike, just to soften them up a little bit. But they're under a clearing now, and now this is not going to fall this turn, because I got to wait for the clearing operation to go before I can really attack these chaps, unless I decide to attack and take the DRM while clearing. And in fact, this clearing actually, as I now look at this clearing is probably going to come off because these guys moved into this zone. So that will probably come off, is my guess. So that may make life a little easier for these guys. Got a strike I got to resolve here. I put one hit on them, but I'm double checking that as well, just for a couple of different reasons. I don't need to get into that. These guys were detected, and these guys were down here were detected as well. They took a bit of a beat down. So it's almost time to kind of unleash some chemical weapons and some nukes. The Marines have landed in Bornholm. We've got the other CVN here that I really want to, I think they need to get to here so that they can land in Poland. Seems to me it would have been just faster just to land them in Germany and pay the turn, and then less risk of being struck by stuff. Failed to mine as the Soviet player here. That didn't work out. New reinforcements coming. There's some more units coming on board, more Marines, and life's looking pretty good as the reinforcements pull in. Lots of detection and strikes going on here. Subs, having sub fights and all that sort of fun stuff. Ideally, the US and NATO forces have started to cherry pick on individual units. They've knocked out a couple of forces. Most importantly, they've stopped the accumulation of victory points on a per turn basis, so that that there's now, this is not an initiative turn this turn in turn 3, so that is really going to wind down the accelerator, ease up the acceleration of the attacking by the Russians, because they're not going to get that extra move and attack that they would have got because of having the initiative in the turn. So instead, instead of running all these, running through all of this here, we go from here to here, and we skip the second strike phase, second supply phase, and all that sort of fun stuff. So we're going straight to the basic movement and combat, which we're about to conduct. And look at me, I'm drinking milk. It's healthy, right? All right. Talk to you guys soon. That was just a quick little update. I'll post this straight up for you, and we'll see what happens later on tonight, if we can get online once I get to a point where it's not hard. Talk to you later.